like this say.
Oops. Okay.
Uh, my grandfather always liked this saying, if you weren't planning on buying something, it being on sale doesn't save you money, which I ignore constantly. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about are deal aggregators slash price checkers. One other thing to note is I'm going to be walking through the slides, and then afterwards, if anyone wants um, more clarity on what the site looks like or what it can accomplish, I will leave enough time to go through and show people what specifically they're interested in. So a deal aggregator slash price checker generally is useful for searching the website for the deal or to see if it's a good price. So what I mean by this is instead of looking at a specific item, you can look at more a generic overview for items. So places like slickdeals.net, that .net is important. It will allow you to see a wide variety of user submitted deals. And then in the comments, you will also see people talking about whether this is a good item, whether a different item is better. So I find it really useful to see other people's opinions. Another site is Reddit. I have two links here, and Reddit is like a community. So each different page is a community. So I've linked Buy It for Life as a community. And one thing you can do is you can go on there and you can search for something, say backpack. And the members of that community will have recommendations for a backpack that is Buy It for Life. You can't see me, but I'm doing air quotes. And basically what that means is the products listed on this page should generally last a very long time. Next section down is camel, camel, camel. What this does is if you ever are on a site on Black Friday and you see something like a TV is down 37%, they'll make sure you see that because that's a kind of impressive discount. What you can do is you can take that link, put it into camel, 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 and it will tell you if it's normally around that price or if it's actually on sale. Because what happens sometimes is, if an item is $100 normally, just what they're normally selling it for, the list price might be 120. So they'll bump the price up to 120 and then give you a discount to make it back to its normal price for sales, just to make you have that big percentage off number. The next thing is Honey. This is a browser extension that I use. It basically does the same thing as Camel, 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 but it does it automatically as you're looking for stuff online. Fake Spot, which is the next on the list. Basically, you can take a URL for an item. So like an Amazon item, you know how they have all the reviews? There'll be like, 1,000 reviews on a TV. You put that into Fake Spot and it will try to intelligently tell you how many of the reviews are fake for a product. So basically how many reviews are from people who actually, normal people who actually bought the item and are using it. More specifically, if you're into buying Macs, I've linked Mac Rumors, which is basically a pretty good deal aggregator for Mac specific products. Lastly, news sites like Wirecutter, those are just good. They'll generally have listings specifically for Black Friday. That is the link I have provided there, where they will link you to all of their articles on what is a good buy on Black Friday. For payment options, generally this is just how to be safe when buying something online. We can go over it more later, but in general, if you're able to pay by PayPal, that's very safe. And then the next best is credit card. Is kind of the only takeaway you need from this slide. So there are some retailers that are online only, like Amazon. Amazon doesn't really have in-store locations for you to go physically see a product, physically, touch a product to see if you like, if you're buying a shirt or whatever, you can't physically touch it before you buy it. Um, but it's also one of the biggest companies in the world for buying products, so have to list it. And if you do buy things from Amazon regularly, you can look into the Prime membership, which gives you all sorts of fun little add-ons, including a streaming subscription. But if you buy Amazon a lot, the Prime membership is a thing you can look at. eBay. I'm not personally a huge fan of eBay, but it's still a massive place to buy things. Most people think of it as the, you know, site where you place bids, but it's moved on and become more of a general e-commerce platform where you can buy hundreds of thousands of different products without bidding. It just has the price listed and you can buy it. The big thing for eBay is you want to look at the seller rating, which will be shown in the upper right-hand corner, and the delivery time. Sometimes if you go on eBay and you may save a couple bucks compared to Amazon, but the delivery time is going to be 1 month from now as opposed to 2 days. Also, buying secondhand is always a viable option. Things like places like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and OfferUp. And whenever you buy something through a service like this, you generally will have to meet up with someone to purchase it. And just remember to be safe. Go to a well-lit, familiar area. Agree on the price beforehand. Call beforehand. Either bring a friend or let them know what you'll be doing and where you'll be doing it. What I personally like is if you want, you can go to like the police station parking lot to exchange an item. And if they balk at going to a police station parking lot to exchange an item, um, it's probably a sign that for some reason this person doesn't want to be around the police at all, which may or may not be a negative for you. All right. Are there any questions on or clarifications wanted on anything I've said so far? Because at the end, we will get into it specifically, but if there are any general questions.
Never look it.
Cool. All right. So next are retailers that you can order from online but have a brick and mortar presence. What's kind of nice about having a brick and mortar presence is if you have an issue with an item, you can physically just take the day, go to Keen or Nashua and replace the item or immediately deal with it versus someplace like Amazon where you have to talk to customer support, package the product back up and ship it. So that's kind of why these are fantastic options. Some examples of this are Best Buy, Costco, Macy's, and Apple. Sometimes they'll also have a perk of membership. Ironically, Costco, you have to have a membership, but the big thing is you can buy online and warranty in store, very little hassle. There are a couple new ways of shopping that are no longer new ways since I've been talking about them for a couple of years. So I'll quickly go through them. One is group buying. I think everyone kind of has the understanding of if you buy one product, it'll be more expensive than if you buy 100 of that product just by scale. So what group buying does is they will get a group of people together to buy a large quantity of an item, and then you'll get a little bit of a discount. Some sites for that are Massdrop, which is now known as Drop, Groupon, and some subreddits. It takes more hassle. It takes a little bit of hassle, and it also will take you longer to get the item, are the main negatives. The next thing is subscription. So these are basically, in the example of the first item, Bespoke Post, it's a $50 a month subscription where you get to choose from like 5 or 6 different boxes, quote unquote. And there'll be themed boxes. and basically buying all those items in the box will be a cheaper way to buy them than if you bought them individually. Generally, these I find are pretty good for like gifts if someone's hard to buy a gift for, mainly because it can give you inspiration. Or the other option is the things like Dollar Shave Company, which is you're just buying razors for really cheap because you're buying them every month and they just automatically get shipped to you. Stitch Fix is for clothing. So you'll upload your size and what type of clothing you want, and then you'll get a box of clothing every month. Whatever you don't like, you just send it back in a pre-packaged box with a label already on it. Blue Apron is for cooking, and FabFitFun is for exercise equipment. Pre-group buying slash wholesale. This is kind of in addition to the group buying section where you are buying a product before it is made. So you're getting it for cheaper because you're essentially paying for the development or manufacture of the product. Some examples are, I always butcher this name, Beckett Simone, which is primarily like fancy shoes, Gustin, which is clothing, and Kickstarter, which is everything. Most people have probably heard of Kickstarter. Um, and sometimes there are new innovative products on there that you may want to support, and then you get the product at the end for 20 to 30% off of what the final retail price will be. Are there any questions about the different buying methods? Cool. All right. So there's always the question of buy expensive or buy it cheap. I like to affectionately call this the Harbor Freight method. The Harbor Freight method is essentially you buy a toolbox for really cheap with a bunch of tools in it. Whatever tools break, you actually use them, and then you buy the higher quality item for the broken tools. Generally, when it comes to electronics, it's worth it to buy the expensive option, unfortunately. Just it will probably have a better user experience and a longer lifespan. And later on in this presentation, we will go over kind of the prices you're going to be looking at as a target for things like computers and cell phones. If you have, after this class or during it, if you have anything that you're going to be buying that you would like a second opinion on, or just someone to look it over, you can contact us, and basically you can say what you're wanting to get, and we can give you recommendations. For example, if you're buying a computer or a laptop, you'll need to answer some questions like what type of computer do you want, laptop, desktop, and how big the laptop's going to be. What are you going to use it for? If you're just using it for web browsing, it will be a different recommendation than if you use it for gaming, for example. What's your budget? This is primarily just so we know what direction to look. We are not trying to sell you a car. We're not getting commission. The price that you're willing to pay is purely based on us giving you recommendations that would fit what you're looking for. If you don't give us a price and we say, hey, this $800 laptop looks really good, and you come back and say, I was only looking to spend $500, then we can adjust the price downward from there. But if you just tell us the price in the first place, we can help you a little bit faster. And this goes for any non-computer questions as well. So if you are looking at buying a laptop, here are some general recommendations. This is basically just something that you can refer back to quickly know if something is essentially worth your time or not. Laptops will generally last anywhere from 3 to 7 years. After 7 years, they will start to get outclassed by newer laptops and things will start to naturally be moving slower. So For laptops, you want probably a new i5 or an i7, and those will be 14th gen if you're buying an Intel laptop. AMD is also a good option, but their naming convention is not nearly as simple. Yep.
Tim, what does I5 and I7 stand for?
It's just the different tiers of Intel's product line. It
Okay.
used to stand for something, and then they kind of moved away from what it strictly stood for, and they just kept it as different tiers. So there's i3, i5, i7, and i9, and generally the sweet spot is either an i5 or an i7. Next, you'll want eight.
I have a question.
Yep.
What is, I don't know what this means, 14th generation, or I guess that's generation Intel for laptops in the first line.
Yep. So let's see if this is I'll go back here. List of Intel processors. Basically, whenever you're looking at Intel processors, the
Basically
first
what your
two,
computer runs on, right, Tim? Like it's,
yep. Yeah, this is the brain of your computer. Um, for Intel, you'll see 1 4 as the first two numbers. That means that's the product line is the 14th gen. So for example, if you saw a Intel chip that was, 11,500, that means it's 3 generations old from the current generation. It's just a way to make sure that you're basically buying a new computer as opposed to buying a 2-year-old computer.
Yep.
And again, AMD has a similar thing, but their product line is not nearly as simple as Intel's in that respect. If my home laptop died today, I'd be looking to spend about $200 to $500 for a Chromebook, $700 to $1,000 for a Windows laptop, or $1,000 to $1,500 for an Apple laptop. In case you were looking at general prices for these items. And I will say these prices are for laptops that are on sale, except for Macs because they pretty rarely go on sale. So for example, the last Windows laptop I bought, I think I paid $800 for it, and it originally was about $1,300. So during Black Friday, you'll find deals like that where electronics are significantly cheaper, even new electronics. I generally like to keep with the main brands when buying a computer. For me, that would be Lenovo, Dell, and HP. That's not to say things like Toshiba or Acer aren't good. It's just I've had a higher sense of confidence when buying from one of those main brands. And if you're going to buy an Apple, obviously the only real option for that is buying an Apple computer. When possible, I also like to buy the enterprise or business line of a manufacturer's computer line. And that's purely because in general, they're made a little bit more solid. For laptops, the case will be made out of better materials. It won't flex as much. The keys may feel nicer when you're typing, that kind of thing. The screen will be better. Um, and I have links to 2 options for sites to go to for the enterprise or business laptops right there.
we have another question.
Yep.
I think maybe you already answered it, but I was gonna ask, like, how would you know if you're looking at different options? Is it in the advertising that it says this is an enterprise laptop, or how do you know?
Yeah, so I'll click on one of these links. So this is the link for Lenovo. Normally they slap business up there. Yeah, at the very top, you can see Lenovo ThinkPad business laptops. Kind of expected it to be more prominent. But it'll say business or enterprise somewhere on the product page.
Are you seeing it there? Cause I'm not, but I don't know.
It's up at the very top on the tab itself, Lenovo ThinkPad business laptops.
Oh, way up top.
Yeah, way at the top. Mhm.
Okay, I thought it was on the page, window page itself.
And then like on the product categories themselves, ThinkPad T series, highly durable flagship business series, ThinkPad E, traditional entry-level business. So the products themselves will also kind of talk about it, boost your business performance. One negative with the business laptops is, for lack of a better term, they are not as sexy looking. They're not as like sleek or shiny. They're more like robust and professional is the way I would describe it. Did that answer the question?
I'm not quite sure what, I think business means business, but enterprise, what would that?
It's just another term for business.
But the enterprise, what is that? What target is that? What target of a group of people is that looking at? Or should we
The
look?
same. Enterprise and business in terms of computers are generally used interchangeably when discussing kind of the business side of the devices. So I just have both words there because some companies will use the word enterprise systems, some companies will use business or business class computers.
They're better made, last longer.
Yeah, the enterprise or business line of a computer is generally made a little bit more solidly than the consumer side.
Thank you, Jen.
Okay. Chromebooks. Occasionally people ask about Chromebooks. If you spend most of your time when you're on a computer online, so using a web browser, then it makes a lot of sense to use a Chromebook. They are a little easier, in my opinion. They're generally cheaper, and they also don't slow down as much. And the security in general is a little bit better than a traditional Windows laptop, the security that's built into them. The main reason why you would not buy a Chromebook is if you have a specific application that you use, because that application will most likely not work with a Chromebook. So if you use things like the desktop version of Quicken, for example, you will not be able to get that to work on a Chromebook. But the main reason to go for a Chromebook is they are cheaper. For a desktop, you're generally looking at getting about 4 to 10 years of life out of it, a little bit longer than a laptop. Once again, i7 or i5, 14th gen Intel. For AMD, I actually wrote down AMD Ryzen 9000 chipset. And if you have any questions about that, I can certainly answer that. And similar to the laptop, you'll want 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of storage. Linking here, I have Lenovo Enterprise and Dell Business. If you want to buy a pre-built, it's basically the same thing as the laptops, except they're a desktop, so they'll require an external monitor.
I have a question, Tim. The Chromebook, is there a version of Quicken that it will interface with or no?
I think there's an online version of Quicken. I
Right.
think it's a subscription though.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking of switching over to Quicken, so that was my question.
Yeah. Plans and pricing. Yeah, so classic Premier, I guess, is $4 a month. Yeah, so
And that's online, so that could work on a Chromebook.
yes, yep.
Yeah, okay.
There are some people who have, one or two programs that are their ride or die, and they're not leaving them for anything. And generally in that instance, Chromebooks would not be the best option.
What word processing program does Chromebook use?
It uses a wide variety. So for example, I have one linked, the Lenovo 2022 IdeaPad Flex 5i. This is kind of confusing because it has 5i, but it's using a Core i3. If you remember on the desktop and laptop, I said use a Core i5 or an i7. Well, for a Chromebook, one of the reasons why it's cheaper is it requires a lot less horsepower to feel very fast. So you can use a cheaper processor and get a very, very fast experience with the computer.
Did that answer your question, or did you say word processor?
Yeah, word
Oh,
processing
yeah,
program.
Tim, word processor.
Word processing on Chromebooks, you would either use Microsoft Word, which has an online version, which is very full featured, or you could use something like Google Docs, which is Google's version of essentially of a word processor. There are other options, but word processors don't really limit you like they used to, because there are a lot of online options of the mainstream word processors. All right. On this page, once again, more links. Last year, we had someone specifically request I add TVs to this. So there are two TV options. For laptops, I have linked the business/enterprise page for Dell, Apple, and Lenovo. For desktops, same thing. And if you want to kind of play with adult Legos, you can also build it yourself. And I have a link to an online portal that helps you kind of build your own computer, which can be fun. But, if it's not something you want to do, then you probably don't want to do it.
For sure.
Yep. But it's just more links on here. We can go over them afterwards if people so desire. Phones, so cell phones. You're looking at around $1,000 for kind of the higher end phones. If you are looking for, a phone you don't really have to think about, really doesn't have very many compromises, you're looking at about, $1,100 to $800, honestly. Sometimes if you are locked in with a specific phone company like Verizon or AT&T, they will have occasionally very good deals where you will sign up for, saying that you're going to stay with them for the next 2 years and they'll give you a phone. Sometimes they'll do buyback programs where you trade in any phone that works and they'll give you $400 towards buying a new phone. All of those deals will be represented in slickdeals.net in case you're looking at buying a phone. If you're looking at buying something that is cheaper, generally the phones around $400 are where they start to get good based on historical knowledge. On this page, I have links to the new iPhone and the new Pixel. That's personal preference by me. iPhones are, what you buy if you have Apple devices, and they're very, very good. And then I personally buy Pixel phones if I'm looking for an Android device. I will generally pick a Google Pixel phone over a Samsung phone, but Samsung phones are also very, very good. But if I wanted to list all of the phone brands, it would take, a couple of years. Just as an example, we have the new iPhone 16 Pro and iPhone 16, and we're looking at $1,000. I'm sorry, the type may be a little tiny, but you're looking at $1,000 for the iPhone 16 Pro, and you're looking at about $800 for the iPhone 16. Whereas for Pixel, you are looking at, don't buy this, don't buy the Fold. For the Pixel, you're looking at $1,000 for the Pixel 9 Pro, and you're looking at $800 for the Pixel 9. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, wow, that is quite a coincidence that their two phone lines are the exact same price. I know, right? Absolutely crazy. But any of these would be good options. And if you have specific questions about cell phones, I'll give you a minute to ask those.
You have to, if you want your calendar and your photos on your phone and your computer to interface, do you have to like have a Mac and an iPhone, or how does that work?
Yeah, so if you have an iPhone, then the easiest way to sync all of those items would be to have an Apple laptop or desktop, and they will automatically sync over. If you have a Windows laptop or a Chromebook or something of that nature, and you have a Google account, then a Google Pixel will allow you to sync everything over just as easily. But if you want, you can also mix and match. So you can have all of your Google account stuff, like calendar, like photos, all of that. You can have that synced up even if you use an iPhone. It's just a matter of downloading the correct programs or the correct apps onto your phone. So it's a little easier if you're one-to-one. So if you're an Apple person and you stick with Apple devices, you kind of don't have to think about anything. It just syncs all that. Whereas Google, you have to click a couple buttons to sync the items between your desktop and phone. All right. Printer. Occasionally people ask me about printers. I absolutely hate printers. Yeah, no additional context needed. But if you're looking for a black and white printer just to print documents, I've had very good experiences with Brother laser printers, and you can generally find them on Black Friday for about $110. Other brands, printer brands that are pretty good, Brother, HP, Epson, and Canon. So basically, if you recognize the name, it has both good products and bad products. You'll just have to kind of look at the reviews to make sure that that specific model is good. If you are trying to print pictures, though, Brother is not the best. That's when you would go with something like the Epson or the Canon printers for photos specifically. All right, so we are done with the slides. Does anyone have any questions? And while you formulate your questions, I'm just going to open up Slick Deals, mainly because it's one of the things I mentioned a whole lot. So for Slick Deals, it looks like this, slickdeals.net up at the top, and it just has pictures. It just has pictures of the items. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, I don't need a backpack, or I don't need the 134-piece Lego Marvel Venom Mech Armor versus Miles Morales building, whatever. And that's where the search bar comes in. So if you're looking for a computer, you go to the search bar, you can type in computer. On this list, on this page, you will see the name of the item that they're talking about, including some of the details. To the right, you'll see the price. So in green, this says $500, and it has in red text with a strike through, $579.99. That means it used to be $580. Since it's on sale, it's now $500. The next section, this shows plus 224. This means 224 people have given it the thumbs up, saying this is a good deal. The higher this number, the more confident you should feel that this is a legitimate deal. The next option section is my absolute favorite, though. It means 117,000 people have looked at this, and we have 223 comments. That means there are 223 little bits of information that people have put in regarding this specific deal. They will say things like, this is a great computer. They'll say things like, this is a really bad computer. They'll say things like, you should actually buy this model instead. They'll talk about their experience owning the computer. So you kind of get a room full of people giving you advice. Or if you're not that positive about putting a spin on things, you get a whole room full of people just arguing. Personally, if people are arguing, then I get to see multiple opinions, which I appreciate whenever I'm trying to buy something. As an example, I pulled this one up. This is just a tiny little computer for desktop computer for $448. It has these specs up here: Ryzen 7, 32 gig DDR5 RAM, 1 terabyte hard drive. And if I scroll down, I'll start to see comments. So someone asks, does this come with Windows 11? That's a really good question. Reply, yes. You already have a question answered. You have someone talking about a different model, asking if it's worth buying this one. This person is saying, yeah, it's worth it. So basically, I'm just able to quickly look through this, and instead of trying to, for lack of a better term, figure it out myself, I'm able to have other people's opinions kind of inform me as to if this is a good idea or not.
So Tim, is Slick Deals, do you actually buy on that website, or is it just an information about products website?
Purely informational. So what happens is they have a giant button that says get deal at Amazon. I click on it and it pops up. Now you may be thinking to yourself, Tim, I thought it was cheaper. I see a big number, $559. Well, that's before I apply the $112 coupon, which I can't do because I'm not signed in. But you'll see up here that it'll say this item titled this is on sale for $112 off when you clip the $112 off coupon found on the website. And we go to the website and we find that is accurate. They have the $112 coupon right there. So Slick Deals basically is just an aggregation tool for people to talk about if something is a good deal or not. Are there any questions about Slick Deals.
Because I'm hard of hearing. What's the first part of before deals? Can you spell that? I can't,
SLICK. Slick.
oh, slick.
Yeah.
With a CK, okay.
Yep. And all of these places we've talked about are linked. And you can click on the link in the presentation slides. The other thing I like about Slick Deals is if I want to know if a product is good or not, I can get really specific in this search bar. So MacBook Air M3. So I can kind of use it as a review checking tool to see if people like it. I see, $200 off. That really doesn't matter to me because I just care about what the 73 comments are saying. So I can search for an item in Slick Deals and look at past discussions about it. So we'll have, if I scroll down, we'll have people talking about it. Excellent price, about as good as it gets. I love the M2, which is the previous version of this computer. Super tempting, blah, blah, blah. Someone asked if the additional RAM was useful. Someone's probably going to answer it. Yes, apparently it's worth it. So you can use it to get reviews kind of in a more roundtable community style way for products by just searching for the product specifically.
Our laptops, because I've never owned one, if I were to buy online, is it easy to set it up or should I be going to Apple?
Good question.
It really depends on kind of how willing you are to sit there. In general, I would say it's very easy to set up a new computer. The difficult part comes in occasionally when you are talking about transferring everything from your old computer to your new computer. That's where you can run into some problems. For Mac, they make it pretty easy. You just buy an external hard drive. External hard drive. So we have a 1 terabyte external hard drive for $50, according to Slick Deals. Pretty popular deal. Lots of thumbs up. So you would just buy, oh, this is for an Xbox. But you would just buy a external hard drive. You would plug it into your Mac. You would then set it up as a time machine backup. You would then let it do its thing. It'll take a couple of hours. You will take the external hard drive from your old computer, plug it into your new computer, and you would hit restore from time machine backup on the new computer, and it would transfer everything over. On Windows, you can do a similar thing, but it's not as straightforward. But either way, if you have any questions about it, you can always bring it in on Wednesday from 12 to 1, and we can help you with that. Laptops are obviously easier to do that with than desktops, though. So just a heads up.
Tim, do you have any opinion about used, particularly Macs, but used laptops?
So I do. I have opinions about a lot of things. Specifically for computers, I generally like buying new. The reason why I like buying new is it's pretty rare to find something for cheap enough that I feel it's worth the amount of years I've lost from it. And what I mean by it is this. I'm saying that laptops last for 3 to 7 years. If I buy a 3-year-old laptop that's used, all of a sudden my usability of years, according to this, goes down to 0 to 4 years. Now, if you're talking about buying like refurbished items from like Best Buy or something, I'm 100% totally on board with that. I think that's fantastic as long as you're getting a 1 to 2 year old piece of technology. But buying like quote unquote used, I just kind of don't trust it. I need it to go through some sort of recertification process in order to trust that it'll be a reliable computer.
I'm not a high-tech person, but my second computer, my first laptop was a MacBook Pro, an early model, and it lasted 12 years. And
Yes.
it still limps along doing some things, but not everything. So I can't rely on it as my only machine. I bought a tiny, very lightweight MacBook, and it's 7 or 8 years old, and it's really starting to fail. So I just, I think like most things, and I suppose I've run out of time though. The older models were better made than what you can get today.
Yeah. No real disagreement from me. The main thing is there's been a push in the tech world to make things smaller and lighter, which means naturally it just physically can't be as robust as the older items. That's another reason why I kind of like the business class lines because they're a little bit thicker, for lack of a better term. They're a little bit beefier. And one of the annoyances I have with Apple that I will loudly proclaim to anyone is they last too long, weirdly enough. The amount of people who talk to me and their Apple laptop is over a decade old and no longer able to get security updates is infinitely higher than the number of people who come to me with a Windows laptop that's 10 years old that can't get security updates.
So is that a rule of thumb? After 10 years, you can't get security updates?
Uh, I think a good rule of thumb is after 10 years, you really need to check to see if it's getting security updates. Historically, Apple has provided security updates a little bit longer for their computers and iPhones, specifically with the Google Pixel now for phones. I think you'll get 6 years of security updates. For Windows computers, it's based on what operating system it can run. So if you have a Windows 10 computer, it officially stopped getting quote unquote updates this October. It will be getting security updates specifically for security things until next October. So if you have a Windows computer that is running Windows 10, now is definitely the time to start thinking about getting a new device.
So I was looking online and found, or my son did, found an Apple 2022 MacBook Air laptop with an M2 chip, but
Yep.
you for $700, but you would say that's too old.
So which one was it again? MacBook Air?
Yeah, 2022.
So the reason why, so sorry, did you say if it was used or new?
You.
New. Okay. Yeah, I have no problem with new. Um Here you can see a deal for $749. So $700 isn't outside the realm of possibility. Here's one for $700. That might be the one he's talking about.
Yeah,
Um,
13.6 inch, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So a lot of the rules I have are very generic because I try and make them kind of easy to understand. Apple plays by special rules is one of the tenets of this class. Apple computers last a little bit longer on average. And any Apple chip, any Apple computer that has the M series of chips, which are Apple's own design, they're going to be pretty good for quite a while, for longer than that 3 to 7 years I wrote down. So M2s are fine. I definitely probably wouldn't be buying an M1 at this point, but M2 is good. They just came out with the M4. It's only 2 years behind. So if you're willing to buy a $700 computer that's 2 years old versus I guess the current one is M3 versus 1,000, or I guess versus $900. So you're saving $200 and you are decreasing, quote unquote, its top lifespan by 1 year. So if $200 is worth 1 year to you, go for it.
Good question. I have a desktop at home that's running Windows 10. And you just said that, if you have something that's running Windows 10, you should start thinking about getting a new device. How do I get Windows 11? Can I just pay for it and download it? Do I have to get a new hard drive, or do I have to just get a whole new device?
So Windows has what they call the Windows Update or Upgrade tool. It's built into the operating system. It probably annoyed you for about a year, probably about 3 years ago. But what it can do is it will check to see if your computer can run Windows 11. So that would be the first step, is to uh, run the tool that checks to see if your computer can run Windows 11. If I were on a Windows machine right now, I would show you what that process looks like. But basically, you just go to Windows Update, and on the right-hand side, there will be an option to check if my computer can run Windows 11. If your computer can run Windows 11, then it's a discussion of if you want to pay money to get Windows 11, or if you want to put that money towards a new computer anyway. If it can't run Windows 11, that makes it a little bit easier, because any new viruses or malware that come out after October 2025, your computer will be susceptible to them.
Even if you pay for, like I have Trend, virus protection, so even if I pay for that, I'm still vulnerable.
That makes you less vulnerable. But the big thing is, okay, so a really bad analogy is, I really like bad analogies, is you have a business that has very valuable information inside, and there is a massive hole in one of the walls. You have Trend Micro as a security guard standing outside that hole, kind of watching out for people trying to sneak in. But it's a hole, you would feel a whole lot more protected if you didn't have the hole in the wall. So yes, it's protecting it, but there's still a hole in the wall of the building. Was that analogy bad enough? I think it was pretty bad. Yeah, I always find that my best questions come after the person is no longer available for to ask the questions to. And just a reminder, if anyone has a question, we always have the Wednesday drop-ins, 12 to 1. And we also have the ability to email questions, and then we'll be able to kind of give you recommendations. And I bring that up specifically because whenever you're buying a computer, I know it's a stressful decision. It's a decision that you will be stuck with for a number of years. So it makes sense to spend a little bit of time and try and get something you'll be happy with going forward.
How do we email you?
So I will be, did you register for the class?
Yeah.
Great, then I will be sending you an email after the class with slides and the presentation, and you can just respond to that email to me. And I'll make sure that that gets to Tim. So any questions can come right to me.
Great, thanks.
Will the consumer report be part of that email?
Yes,
Great.
I'll send you guys the link.
Tim, the drop-in, I did it once, but my God, there was such a line of people, but I did get to see you. But what's the best way the drop-in is 12 to 1, you can sign up from 12 to 1?
You can actually call the library, starting when we're open, and Nancy will put your name on the sign-in sheet.
Oh.
So, yeah, so you can do that, and it has been a little bit, it's been less busy the last couple months, so you should, if you do that, you'll definitely
Yeah.
get in.
Thank you.
Yep. And just a reminder, if you're able to wait after 1 and you have signed up, most of the time, unless I have like an urgent meeting or something, I will try and stay to answer everyone's questions. So if you're able to sit there, I know it's inconvenient, but if you're able to sit there for, until 1:30, I'll always try and fit everyone in, everyone that I can.
Thank you.
Tim, I have one more question. Is Windows 11 available now on devices, or do you have to wait till it comes out?
Yep. Windows 11 has been available for a couple of years.
Oh, okay.
And it will last for a very long time at this point. Windows 11, yeah, they don't even have end of life for Windows 11 yet. Yeah, generally it's over 10 years though. So Windows 11 will last quite a while. The main question is if you have an older computer on Windows 10 that will go to Windows 11, how many more years of life are you going to get out of that computer? If it's running great now, then you'll get a couple more good years of life out of it. But as always, just be aware that any program updates, any new programs that come out, they will always be built to run on the newer, faster machines, which means that your computer will feel slower, even if it's, even if it's the exact same speed it was 6 years ago, it'll just naturally feel slower because everything is built for faster computers.
Tim, you may have said this and I may have missed it, but did you mention if there was a particular, I'm talking about Macs now, laptop that besides surfing the web is also good for photos, like if you want to edit photos, store photos, view photos?
Yeah. So for Macs, I generally, if you don't want to think about it too much, I would say just buy whichever size MacBook Air, and by size I mean 13-inch or 15-inch, that screen size that you want. If you specifically want to store a lot of photos, what you would do then is you would select and you would just go down to storage and you would just buy the 1 terabyte solid state drive upgrade for $200. And that would just make your computer be able to handle a lot more photos. But all of the, yep,
In the specs, do they specify weight? How much these devices weigh?
somewhere they will. Um, somewhere there's a specification page. I'm not seeing it right now, but MacBook.
I was having a hard time finding that.
Yep, 2.7 pounds.
Which one was that, the 13 or the 15?
That's the 13-inch. The 15 is 3.3 pounds. I personally am still using a MacBook Pro 14-inch M1. MacBook Pro. And that is 3.5 pounds. And I've found it to be pretty portable. So this is heavier than either of the two options we had just talked about.
Getting back to the payment options online, I know about PayPal and, using the credit card, but can you talk about Venmo?
Yeah, so the biggest thing with things like Venmo is depending on how you use it, um, it's drawing directly from your bank account. And if you send money without fees, you don't have any payment protection on that. So, for example, if someone were to fraudulently get you to Venmo them money, it's difficult to get that money back. Whereas with a credit card, you would just file a dispute and your credit card company would probably take care of it if you did it in a timely manner. It's just with things like Venmo, it's a little bit more difficult for that process to happen.
And the reason I ask is because I have all these nieces and nephews that are always asking me for money for their soccer teams and buying candles and all that, which I'm happy to do. But it usually wants me to pay by Venmo. So I
Yep.
haven't done that yet. I just send my nieces and nephews a check for the item. So would you say that it would be foolish of me to use Venmo?
In that context, Venmo is fantastic. You're sending the money to someone you know. It makes it very easy to send the money. It makes it very easy for them to receive the money. The other thing to note is it is a one transaction process. And what I mean by that is you can't send somebody money through Venmo and then them like try and get more money out of that. It's a one and done. So I personally use Venmo. I find it to be safe, especially for sending money to friends and family.
Would I have to set it up so that they would come out of my checking or something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. You essentially put in your some bank account information. They have a how-to on pretty much every major bank. It's a pretty simple process. Um, and then you can start sending and receiving money pretty quickly and efficiently.
Any last questions? stop recording.